How do you motivate people to climb a mountain? Hi, I'm Nicola Keneally, and welcome to the Uprising Podcast with Scott Goodson. Today, the Uprising Pod makes a pilgrimage to Flywheel to meet Eve Bondareva, a renowned spinning instructor, to get lessons on what it takes to get docile saddle huggers up and out of their seats, legs pumping furiously, smashing goals and finish lines they never thought possible. We've counted no less than 25 phrases that Eve uses to motivate her class of 40 people in complete darkness, music pounding to come together towards one goal.
Welcome to Uprising. Each episode looks inside what it takes to lead the most dynamic and successful cultural movements. Some of them in the business world, some in the social realm, some in politics, and some in between, to see why people start uprisings, what gives those initiatives momentum and keeps them going, and most important, what lessons can you learn from these movements and how to apply them to your business and even personal life. Let's explore the secret to sparking movements that move people into action.
Passionate ideas.
Controversial ideas.
Uprising ideas.
The power is now in the hands of anyone.
To start a cultural movement.
Your movement. To move the world.
Today's Uprising Pod is brought to you by warbyparker.com. Get a free 5-day home try-on at www.warbyparkertrial.com/uprising. 5 pairs, 5 days, 100% free.
Welcome to Uprising podcast. We're focused on movements, and movements tend to inspire people to be part of something bigger than themselves, and they get people all passionate, and when they become passionate, they want to overcome obstacles, they want to change the world. But one of the biggest challenges that I think movements have to overcome is motivation. How do you get people to join a movement? How do you inspire them to be part of, your idea? How do you get them to do anything? It's really difficult. Most people are super apathetic. They just like to sit on their bums and watch television or, play with their iPhones. So today, I thought it would be a really cool idea to invite Eve Bondareva, who is a fitness professional working over the last 20 years to motivate and inspire people to obviously become fit, but become more than they thought they could. And emphasis on motivation. I don't know how many people who are listening to this have ever experienced a spinning class, but I had the pleasure of being part of Eve's spinning class, and she's got an uncanny ability to get people to do things that they just never thought they could do. So, Eve, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi. Very excited. Thank you.
Very excited. I'm glad you're here, and I understand you just finished a class. So,
yeah, 3. Actually, 3.
3 classes. Amazing.
Yeah.
And do you ever get tired yourself, or is this something that just doesn't happen?
Oh, definitely. I think, for me, the exertion that I experience is not so much physical, it's more mental, because as we get into talking about this, a lot of times indoor cycling is such an animal that when you get into the groove and you have the room of people and it's in close space, and the way it's designed with the way the bikes are situated, the way I'm situated and positioned in the room, and then you play in music and all those elements, I become kind of this spiritual drive to take people through this journey. So a lot of times it's not so much my physical exertion, it's my mental coaching and getting people to these places where, like you said, they didn't think they could ever get to, and it could be very mentally, emotionally draining. So yes, I do get tired, but it's more mentally than physically.
So you meet this person, let's say person X, and they walk in, they have no faith in themselves. You get them on the bike, and what goes through your mind when you think about how are you going to get them to a place that they don't even know exists?
Well, I think the first step is breaking the ice and getting And Flywheel is really great about inclusivity factor when it comes to our writers or, our guests, our pulsers, people that do bar with us. We try to really definitely make their first experience the most positive ever. We know who they are before they come in. And when people sign up to take a class, we know that it's their first time. So right away, that person is highlighted. They're on the top of our, so to say, roster. We make sure when they come in and they say their name, for your first time, we make sure from the second they come into our studio, that experience is a very positive one. So they're never feeling like they're not fitting in or they've never done indoor cycling before. So it really, really starts from the first impression. When they're in the room, I'll introduce myself. I'll help them set up on their bike so they have the best experience ever. Make sure and explain the technology and really give them this comfort into that there's no right or wrong way. There's really, this is an exploration, this is a journey, and I'll take them through it. They just have to trust me, focus with me, and I'll guide them through it. And throughout the class, I'll make eye contact, I'll call out their name, might even come up to them through like tough moments in the ride to make sure that they're present, they're understanding. And if they need that little extra attention and acknowledgement that they're doing great. You know what I mean? It's really kind of a ongoing process throughout the ride and throughout their first experience.
In your experience, what moves people? I mean, how difficult is it to get someone to, to try something?
It could be challenging. I mean, there's definitely the culture behind, indoor cycling, and it has its own following. But a lot of times you will get people that are very hesitant. And I feel like it's really a challenge for some people to get into that groove or to maybe even surrender themselves to the experience. We all have hangups. We all have, weird things that we think we can't do, or this is too hard. It's out of my comfort zone. It's challenging. It's too loud. There's too many people. There's all these elements that I feel like a lot of times will come up for people that are not used to it. So for those who are in it and they get it and they love it, they understand it. It's the second the lights go down and the beat drops, it's a complete surrender to the music, to me, the trust they put in me as their leader, as somebody who's going to guide them through this experience. It's definitely less of a challenge with them. It's more of a challenge with people who can't let go or are struggling to believe in themselves that they're capable of these things.
And when you find someone who doesn't believe in themselves, how do you get them to kind of take that first step?
Well, I try throughout the class kind of bring in uniformity and the experience as a group. A lot of times I'll, drop in things about how being stronger and experimenting here and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone is really a freeing and experiment, and it could be applied outside the room. This could be real life stuff, whatever you're going through. You could work it out here. You can actually feel better about something. You can come in with an issue, with a problem, and then by the time the class is over, the sweat, the energy, the endorphins could bring you to a place you can actually find resolution. And you could walk away approaching something stronger and better with a totally new perspective. And it's happened to me so many times, and to anybody who that I feel is in this industry specifically. We've changed people's lives, and it's the most amazing thing to witness, depending on what their goals are, what they're going through in life. If they give it a chance and really, really surrender and trust the process, it could be a truly amazing and magical experience.
When did you start your career as a indoor cycling leader, and what did you have to learn to motivate people to get on a stationary bike, and push themselves beyond what they think is possible?
So I've been with Flywheel for going on 6 years now. Prior to that, I was strictly a personal trainer. And I've taught group fitness classes. I've worked for Equinox before. I used to have my own business on the side. So I always had the passion for people and coaching them through movement and getting them a better version of themselves, a stronger, a more fit. And people's lives were truly affected by that in a positive way. And I've seen great things. When it came to indoor cycling, it was a bit of a struggle for me because when I got on the bike the first time for even my audition, I realized that it was a much more vulnerable place for me as a leader. When you're a personal trainer or you teach, boot camp classes, you don't so much rely on this kind of honest flow of energy. You could listen, you could talk, you don't necessarily have to work with music. Here, everything has to feel organic and natural, right? Like the music flows, the things what I say when I say it, what is the purpose of me saying it? I want to make sure I don't talk too much so people do get to zone out. I make sure I talk exactly where they need me to pull them back up and suck them back into what we're doing so they don't get lost. So it was definitely a challenge. And it was a very, very different experience. Leading a group of people in a dark room with the lit spotlight on me, with music blasting through the speakers, versus one-on-one coaching or, any other kind of boot camp training.
Listeners of Scott Goodson's Uprising Pod, Warby Parker is offering a free 5-day home try-on to give you the opportunity to check out their glasses. To get your home try-on today, go to warbyparkertrial.com/uprising. Again, that's warbyparkertrial.com/uprising for your free 5-day home try-on.
For years, doctors have been telling us that, stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of, the common cold to heart disease and those sort of things. Stress is the enemy, the bad guy. But in your spinning class, I've witnessed something different. I've witnessed how, you're able to take stress and turn it into something that motivates people and just pushes them. Have you thought about that when you lead your classes?
Oh, absolutely. I think, if you talk about stress as motivator, for riders to turn it around, that's why I feel like a lot of people get so addicted to it. It is such an incredible stress release. I feel like, I'll have riders, and I'm very close to the community of riders that I have in Scarsdale, where I teach most of my classes. And, I know very detailed things about my riders. I know when somebody has experienced a tremendous loss. I've had a rider who lost both her parents within the spread of, a week. I had people not being able to, get a job for months, and we keep coming back to Flywheel, and it's the only place that they feel they can get through and successfully get through the day. I'll have moms who have 3 little children, and it's so stressful, and you feel like you don't catch a break, and they come in and this is their happy place, and that's what gets them through. So as far as the stress factor and ability to relieve people from that is why I feel like fitness industry is so successful, and that's why it's so huge, and there are all these different boutique studios, and because people actually understand now in our day and age that this is the only way to really get through the way the world is today. You know what I mean? It's kind of a very powerful tool. And all you really need is an hour of your day. Think about it. Like, you don't need a huge amount of time to distress, to relieve yourself of these toxins that, they can cause cancer. These kind of stressful situations, whatever they might be for each person, they bring you down. They make you unhealthier. They make you make worse choices when it comes to food. you might be grumpier, you might be a terrible parent, a terrible spouse, an impossible person. And it's all because this toxicity in our bodies that if we don't let it out and replace it with something positive ends up really kind of damaging from the inside and corrupting pretty much life.
Do you think it's a very important step for you to have that close proximity to your community in order for you to be able to motivate them and to take them, to this place that they don't think is possible to go? Like the way you talk about it is like you're very close. You know them personally. You know their life challenges. You know the obstacles they've overcome. Do you think by becoming close to them, obviously you build trust, but do you think that you are able to, as a result of that, motivate them beyond where they're able to go? Is that an important part of it?
Yes and no. So there's two sides. It's a very good question. So there's two sides to that. I feel sometimes it could be helpful. Like when I had a writer who was going through a very difficult time and a loss, and I knew she loves Coldplay, and I knew this would move her. So I played a song that moves me. And, she cried. She cried the entire time, and she was on the first row in the stadium. And, I looked over at her and she was crying. So, and, she came up to me, and we've been talking, I've seen her months after, and she would say to me, that was probably a moment I was holding on to tears and I didn't want to break down. She's like, but that was a moment that I felt it was my body's moving, it's dark, and this is the song, and I'm just going to let it all out. And I felt better. I felt like I could move through whatever I was going through. So that's an example of somebody who I know close or knew what she was going through. At the same time, I could have somebody who, I've never really connected with on the personal level. They always sit in the back row. They don't really want to talk to me. They just come in, they get on their bike, and they do their thing. And for them, I've spoken to one girl afterwards that was taking my class for 2 years and really always kept to herself. And, after a while, I was like, hey, how's it going? I was like, it's been 2 years. I have to check in with this person. And she told me, she's like, I really, this is my sanctuary. This is my safe place. I feel like this is the only place I feel nobody's going to bother me. Nobody's going to come and, make small conversation with me. I come in, I get what I need, I get out of my head, and I move on with my day. So, but you motivate me and inspire me to, I'm in the best shape of my life. So that's an example of somebody who comes into it. They don't want, the conversation. They don't want the sense of community. They come in because maybe they want to come out of their own community. And this is kind of a place nobody knows them, and they value that, and it's their sanctuary. So it works both ways, really.
We are with Eve Bondareva on the Uprising podcast, and we're talking today about inspiration and motivation, how you get people to do things they don't think they're able to do or beyond what they're capable of. And it's really fascinating to hear your experiences, Eve. I have a question. In your experience, you've obviously been doing this for a long time. What do you think is possible with human beings? Like, can you get people to do pretty much anything, do you think, or are there limitations?
I think I don't like limitations. I feel like if things are safe and they're making sense and there is sort of knowledge behind what you're asking people to do, I think anything is possible. I do believe that, limitations of the human body could be, present, obviously. There's health issues and things like that. So when I do structure my rides or my classes, there's a great amount of consideration is, what I'm planning to do, what am I asking, what is the execution, and is it safe, and is it And is there a value in it? So I think, yes, anything is possible, but it has to be a very kind of a very, very well thought out and educated way to push people, to get them to do things they can't imagine themselves doing and getting them there. Because I've seen it done, but it has to be done in a way that does make sense and is tailored to the fact that we're all humans. Our legs are only capable of going a certain speed. Our body mechanics is different. I don't expect everybody to be able to do everything that their neighbor is able to do, but I always asking for my writers and for people in my class, whether it's bar or wheel, is it's not right or wrong. It's not what your neighbor is doing, is what you need to get out of this. And this is what I want you to feel. So I will go after a feeling of, let's say, exertion, a feeling of your legs burning, your lungs burning, your thighs burning, your core burning, whatever that might be, is an experience that I describe. And people are able to connect to that. And that to me is making something impossible possible. But I do believe there's nothing that a human body can't do, especially if the mind is, cooperating.
So you have 40, 50 people. It's a dark room. They're sitting on stationary bikes. The music, you're controlling the music, and the music has different messages. And then you speak to that community of people, and you say things that get them to, put their energy in, focus on trying to overcome what they have in their, in front of them. I can't do this. I can't get beyond 200 points or whatever, but yet they go beyond 200 points. It'd be really interesting to hear what kind of, phrases or what kind of words do you use to get people to get to, this better place?
Well, it's all very different. I'll coach them into something, and I'll say you have 15 seconds or you have 30 seconds. And it'll be in the moment where something musically very dramatic and very exciting happens, right? And then I'll ask them to either sit or stand and maybe to close their eyes. And I'll say, if you only have 30 seconds, such a short time, give yourself this opportunity to see how strong you are. Things of that nature, I see it through my writers. It really gets better because it makes it very individual.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's an understanding of it's 30 seconds. You could do anything for 30 seconds. Trust me. I believe, I have faith in you that you can push yourself somewhere you didn't think was possible. And I might not even say didn't think was possible, because I have contradictory feelings about using like didn't or don't kind of language. I always try to say like a yes kind of language. Yes, you can. But words of encouragement, but also I sometimes will feel out what my writers are doing. I feel their energy. I see their legs. I see their head. I know if somebody's not with me. I know if somebody's really kind of lost or maybe struggling, it could be something personal, or maybe they're not feeling well. So I will kind of go organically with what my crowd needs to encourage them.
What theories have you developed when it comes to motivating large groups of people?
Theories. Well, being honest and being very organic in what I say. Like obviously you never.
I mean, you're very good at being clear as well. Like you're very good at setting goals and then inspiring people to smash those goals.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I do. I think, and it's honesty. It's just being honest and being transparent and bringing good energy and making people feel good and accomplished while I'm asking them to do things that are very challenging. And it's very surprising how, I'll meet people and they just don't say to me, I don't do this out of the saddle. I don't do tap backs. I don't do this. And then, you'll get the whole group flowing. And next thing I know, I look over and so is out of the saddle, tapping it back, big smile in their face. So it's definitely something that happens within the studio. It's kind of could be a very magical experience. And sometimes I'll walk away from that, and I'll, even as an instructor, will have moments of like, wow, that was pretty incredible what those people just did. But I have to honestly have to feel it out. I try to choose music that speaks and has very good messages and is motivating, inspiring. I'll find moments in the ride. I'll play a slower song, and I'll let people just listen to the lyrics and feel something. You'll play Bruce Springsteen and everybody will go to a place, somewhere, or you'll play Coldplay and they'll be like, wow, that was the most beautiful lyric, the most beautiful music. I just left my body and I was like in this out of space type of experience.
How important is music in getting people motivated?
Oh, it's like the biggest. It is the huge factor. It's what keeps people coming back for more. It keeps people motivated. Even if, you take a class and you're not connecting with the instructor or whatever else is not happening right now at that moment, if the music is great, if you can sing along to a song, or you can be like, wow, that's a great beat. What is that song? I am really enjoying this right now. It could be very, very powerful. So music is so important. Good music, the diversity in music. So make sure there's something for every person in the room,
So, people who listen to this podcast, they're people who are leading movements and they're building organizations that have a community. For those people listening who wish to lead movements, what advice would you offer them?
For people that are looking for motivation in their life,
Yeah, not necessarily, obviously we want them all to come to your wonderful class, but it's more in terms of, people who are listening to this, they may be leading their own organizations across the country, and they may be businesses, they may be all sorts of organizations that do different things. And as leaders of those organizations that want to motivate 50 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, what advice would you have for them when it comes to motivating humans?
My biggest advice would have to be being completely transparent, leading by example. So when you ask, for me, when I ask my riders to do something, I will be doing it with them. If I ask them to work harder, I make sure that I'm there physically, mentally guiding them through that. So transparency, honesty, and, sensibility, and genuinely a very good leadership, I feel like, comes from connection and, leading by example. That for me, I think, is what's worked great for me in my career. And I feel like those are things that anybody who's leading or motivating a group of people, whether it's selling something or trying to create something, it's the biggest thing. It's positivity, genuine, honesty and transparency. Those are things that I value in anything I do.
Well, Eve, your insights and your experience have been really interesting to listen to. I have myself been a part of your class for the last couple of years, and I've seen it firsthand, how you were able to motivate all these people that come into this room, and it's really quite remarkable, I have to say. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because I think people who lead movements need to be inspiring, need to listen to the advice that you're giving, because you are able to get people to do things that is really quite remarkable.
Thank
so
you,
I very much, I appreciate you having the time to join us today.
This has been great. Thank you so much for letting me speak my mind.
No, it's super interesting. Eve Bondareva, a stationary bike instructor, physical fitness instructor, who has done many things. She's currently does a wonderful job at Flywheel. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you. This has been amazing. Thank you, Scott. I'll see you on the bike.
Yeah, okay. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining our Uprising today and listening to our show.
If you missed the show, or if you want to find out more about who was on, or if you want to learn more about how to create your own uprising, please go to uprisingmovements.com. You can also download this Uprising program from iTunes. Uprising was produced by Nicola Keneally and Adam Helen, with special help from Melanie Boardman, Karin Drachenberg, Philippa Freeman, Brianna Campbell, Fashad Faroudi, Mark Bruzy, Will Issam, James Politi, and Jonathan Weeks. My name is Scott Goodson, and you've been listening to Uprising. What we can learn about movements and uprisings that are shaping our world in business, in society, and in between. For more on cultural movements and movement marketing, be sure to pick up a copy of the best-selling book Uprising, How to Build a Brand and Change the World by Sparking Cultural Movements, available on Amazon.com. Music for Uprising composed by Charles Duchateau.